Welcome back to Crashin
Okay.
Boards. It is episode 4, I think. I'm Joe Sudbeck,
I'm Jack Berkey.
and this is obviously a little bit different than the normal podcast. Jack's at his house, I'm at my house. Quarantined, obviously, social distancing. School's definitely gotten a lot weirder than what it was before, obviously, having the Zooms. So the podcast is different, but we'll try to get the same type of stuff out. First thing up, obviously March Madness was canceled, so there are different teams we missed watching, and I know Jack has one in particular that he would like to talk about.
Yeah, Creighton, just missing out on watching Creighton this year. Creighton was supposed to make a huge run in the NCAA tournament. I mean, one senior, they were top 10 ranked. They were on fire. They could have won the Big East, certainly. And then the corona happened, and it just shut all the momentum.
Yeah, I mean,
But then there's next year, though, returning all the guys except for one.
that's
So
huge.
it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, they're right now they're like 2 or 3 in the way too early polls, but I mean, when you have 5 guys, your whole entire starting lineup returning, plus some big recruits, they could easily make noise next year, more than what they did this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with obviously Creighton would be my one, but I'm gonna go with Oregon, just because 3 years ago, when Peyton Pritchard was a freshman, they made the Final Four. And usually when teams make that run, when they have a guy like that that's a freshman, I mean Jalen Brunson did that when he was at Villanova, except they won the championship. I mean when he became a senior, they end up winning it again because when you have senior point guards in the NCAA, it makes things a lot easier. You can lean on him down the stretch, especially when he can score like that. So I think they would have at least made the Elite Eight. I mean, they're a good team all around, but then with him and then a great coach, it really makes it a lot easier. So I kind of wish I would have seen what he would have done as a senior if he'd been anywhere near as good in the regular season or been better than what he did in the regular season. It'd been interesting to see. And then obviously the NBA now is taking a break, or a hiatus is what they call it, And
Yeah.
I think there are definitely teams that are benefiting from this and teams that aren't. I mean, it's a long
Oh, for
break.
sure.
I mean, right now, who knows how long it'll be, especially if they restart the season, or come back. It'll depend on what they do. But I think the team that definitely benefited the most in this is the Lakers. I mean, you have an older LeBron. Oh, who do you have? Let's see. I have the Lakers.
I have
for
the
that.
Warriors. I got the Warriors because basically they just tanked for half a season, rested Clay and Curry, right?
Yes.
Get a top draft pick next year.
And we talked
And
about
they
this on
still
one of
have
our
a chance.
podcasts.
And
We
they still have
talked
a chance
about
to
this.
win a championship, assuming the season is canceled. They still have a chance to win another championship. Like 4 and 6 years or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, when we were talking about this, the one episode about how they could, they have those guys were injured and they're tanking for a top pick. And at the end of the day, that was going to end up helping them because they played so many years in a row. I think that they benefited a lot from this, but I think just from the hiatus itself, I think they benefited from the whole season no matter what. I mean, they'd go from deep run to getting injuries, top pick, and they could rest them. But I think the team that just benefited from this little 2-month break is the Lakers, because if they end up playing the rest of the season out, the Warriors are going to end up tanking anyways, no matter what. Whereas the Lakers,
Yeah.
they're resting their guys now. They don't have to do it down the stretch. They can get guys better. LeBron's older. You have older players in that team. They can make a push. But I think that for me, the team that didn't benefit at all from this was the Bucks.
The Bucks,
Because
yeah.
as we talked about what the Bucks were doing, they had a deeper bench. They were deep, and they had Giannis, who was not playing not as many minutes as other stars were. It was right around 30 to 31 minutes a game. So if he's not playing a ridiculous amount of minutes, he was already getting set up to be playing a lot in the postseason because of that. But now at this break, he's gonna not has played at that much basketball before, and now he's gonna have to play more heading into the playoffs to just kind of get back up to shape. But I think a lot of teams are gonna have to do that. I mean, the Celtics are gonna have to do it. They were deep. Now you have to now you have that break. They're gonna have to get back in shape. It'll be interesting it'll be interesting for all these teams if they come back and play, how they will play at the beginning and how the finals will look. I mean, the rumored schedule for the NBA is they'll see till June 1st to see what'll happen if they continue the season or not past that. But what I heard before was, I think it was Brian Windhorst, or no, it was Adrian Wojciechowski said that the NBA is thinking about already in the future going to a shorter, not shorter schedule, but they don't want to compete with the NFL as much and kind of
Yeah, I
start
heard that.
on Christmas. I think that's perfect for the NBA because the MLB, they already outpaced the MLB when football's done. So
For sure.
then if you compete with them longer, I think they'll be the number one sport. I mean, if it's July, I would rather watch basketball than I would baseball, just because baseball's fun, but
There's
middle of the
162
summer,
games
yeah,
in baseball.
there's so many games in baseball. I mean, even basketball has so many games, but in baseball it's even worse. It's like, I'd rather just watch an NBA game, or especially if it's the playoffs in July, and there's already AAU basketball going on, stuff like that. It's not like people pay no attention to basketball in the summer. So I think the NBA would get a lot of people to watch. And the NFL, to me, if there's an NFL NBA game, I'm watching the NFL. I mean, especially in that time, it's right getting out of the playoffs. But especially if they cancel the season, though, I mean, that'd be terrible for all these teams.
Yeah. It's going to put a huge crank in the normal routine.
Oh, yeah, and then you'd have different players get with contracts up, having to get re-signed after not even playing a full season. I mean, it'd be interesting how NBA teams could go about not playing a season and not be able to finish it, especially if you started out hot or started out bad, But I think the other thing we need to talk about here is, our first episode was a Kobe kind of tribute episode, and now this past week, the new Hall of Fame inductees came in, and the main headliners were Kobe, Kevin Garnett, and Tim Duncan. So what are your thoughts on those three guys coming in?
I think this is arguably one of the greatest Hall of Fame classes of all time, because combined between them, how many championships?
Well, I mean, Kobe has 5,
13.
Duncan has 5,
Kobe has 5.
Garnett has 1, I think. Yeah, 1, because he won 1 in Boston, correct?
Yeah, I won one in 2008.
So that's 11 championships right there.
Yeah, countless All-Star games.
Yeah, I mean, I think they said it was like 48 All-Star games.
Defensive player of the years between all three of them. It's just crazy to just the accolades that just those three players.
All three of them.
Combined.
All 3 of them are MVPs. I mean.
Yeah.
They showed a thing on ESPN. It was that that class. This is probably the best class ever going in, especially with those 3 guys. The only other one they showed that you could compete with, which I think we should talk about here, it was John Stockton, David Robinson, and Michael Jordan, and then it was obviously these 3: Garnett, Duncan, Bryant. I mean, both of them have first and second team all-time NBA players, at power forward and at shooting guard. Obviously to me, Michael's a first team, shooting guard, and then I have John Stockton as my second team point guard, and then Duncan first team power forward, Bryant second team, shooting guards. I mean, they're all when you're headlined by that much, and I think this year's one's better just because all 3 of them won MVPs, all 3 of them won championships.
Yeah, all 3 won a championship. That's the difference between that class and MJ's class.
Yeah, I mean,
Stockton never won a championship.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Stockton might be the second best point guard of all time, but the guy hasn't won a championship, hasn't won an MVP. Whereas these guys over there, there's every one of them MVP, every one of them has a championship. Yeah. So it's I'd rather have that one. And even then, David Robinson played with Tim Duncan in his first in his championships. So without Tim Duncan, does David Robinson probably win those championships? Probably not. And I think also goes the same way though for Tim, the first couple. Without David, would he win it? Probably not. But still, I think those 2 classes are top notch. And then the other one for me is the coaches. They're called Eddie Sutton. He coached at Creighton for a little bit, and that's kind of cool. I don't know if there's ever been a Creighton coach that's been inducted. I think he's probably the first one. I don't even know about players, So I mean, that's pretty cool to see. Obviously with Omaha, Creighton, and then Rudy Tomjanovich. He's a 2-time NBA champion coach. The only 2 years, the 2 years that he won was without Michael. So I mean, when it wasn't MJ, it was his teams. So I think this year was a really good class, and
for sure,
I think would we have thought this class would have been that good 5 years ago when they all retired? Yeah, we all knew those 3 guys were first ballot Hall of Famers. They were not going to wait a year. doing Duncan.
100%, yeah.
I mean, when Tim Duncan is the quietest one of those players, you know, because he just doesn't talk or doesn't have any reactions to anything. I mean, that's ridiculous to have that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully we can get more episodes out here. We'll try to. Obviously, this was the main thing that happened in about a month span, 3-week span, you know, in the NBA and in college basketball. So hopefully in a little bit there will be more to talk about. I know there's one of the last thing I want to talk about here. So there's Davion Mintz. You know him obviously from Creighton, Jack.
Yeah.
He is transferring from Creighton. He's grad transfer, I think, or he redshirted this year. So one of the two, but he's transferring from Creighton. What are your thoughts on him transferring from Creighton? Are you happy? Are you sad?
I mean, Davion was like a good player, but like I don't think anyone's gonna be sad that he's gone because he didn't really get that many minutes. And then I think I don't know like what it was, but I feel like every time something like Creighton fans saw him on the floor, he just did something wrong, and then we like gave him a lot of crap for it.
Oh no, I
think
I haven't been the biggest.
I think that people are gonna like be happy that he's on.
Honestly, I haven't been the biggest Davion fan, and I think a lot of it is though I just don't think they played him at the right position. Was the reason why. I mean, he really when you look at the point guards when Creighton's been good, and like Marcus Zagorowski, Mo Watson, they are top level point guards, and they pass the ball really well, and they pass first. I mean, as much as Marcus scored this year, he was looking to pass the ball first, and Davion did a lot of trying to score first, which isn't bad, but I think if they would have played him at the 2 guard, he would have been a lot better than what he was.
Yeah, that's the 2 guard.
Because, I mean, he wanted to go downhill, and he was good at doing it, but when you're a point guard, you got to, you know, spread it out and get some guys open. So I think, and especially with him, he knew that when Marcus had such a good year this year, that there was no chance he was going to start. So, I mean...
So that's a smart move on his
Yeah, I think he should leave, and he'll be able to go to a good place and get some playing time and probably make an NCAA tournament. I mean, he's good enough to do that. And I think the last thing I saw was on CBS, they had Marcus Zagorowski, it was either CBS or NBC, had Marcus Zagorowski a second-team All-American.
Dang, second team.
I was like, I think he was underrated. I mean, people were talking about Tyshawn. Tyshawn was great and all, but really, when you saw the great games from Creighton, yes, he was the guy that was making the offense go. And you could tell that from last year to this year, that was the difference between those two teams. Davion was the point guard in one, Marcus was the point guard in the other, and it was just a lot more up-tempo, push it down the court. And I think everybody benefited from that, and I'm really excited to see what next year, though, holds with new recruits coming in. There's a 5-star from Canada that's choosing between Alabama and Creighton. If he comes to Creighton, I mean, I think next year will be the year if Creighton's going to make a run anywhere, anytime, it'll be the year because they'll be in Atlantis, they'll be in good tournaments. So I think it's just mainly can they take care of business next year, which will be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah.
Well, that was the latest episode of Crashin' the Boards. I'm Joe Sedbeck.
I'm Jack Kernke.
And thank you for watching.